do you say, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition, really the second edition of Elephant in the Room on Roll Tide Pods. If you're not a subscriber, you better be one. So go like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Comment. We'd love to hear from you. He's Jed Coker. I'm Mick Gillespie. And all about Alabama and Ole Miss. Obviously, we're not going to have as much fun on this show as others because we're not in the studio, but we'll make it work, man. We're both on the road right now.
Hey, that's right. This could be a shit show. We'll see. It's an experiment.
I'm in a press box in Chattanooga. You're in Tuscaloosa right now, so you're there. You can give us a vibe of what's going on in T-Town. Hey guys, Aaron Rodgers' season is officially over, but yours has just begun at MyBookie. NFL, college ball, and a brand new cash-out system give you options to bet and win all season long, and they are a proud sponsor. Well, maybe not that proud, but of Elephant in the Room. All right, let's get into this right away. A lot to talk about it, but your old offensive coordinator, Lane Kiffin, this week has been very active on Twitter, tweeting a Taylor Swift song that I felt like, and a lot of us felt like, was geared at Alabama's dynasty collapsing. He questioned who is the real Alabama defensive coordinator. His dog doesn't want to come to Tuscaloosa because of so many five-star prospects that Alabama has. What was it like working with him? Is this every day?
I mean, sometimes you knew that there was a little media manipulation in there. I mean, you didn't want the arguments to go too far with Lane because
we just lost Jake. There you are. You back, Jake?
Yeah. Did you hear me?
I didn't hear you, but I don't see you right now.
Well, like I said, this could be a shit show.
What happened?
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
You didn't even touch anything. It just went out.
I had a phone call come in and,
Oh, we got to forget about those phone calls.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
People are looking for you.
That's right. That's right.
I'm like, all right, well, where the hell did he go?
Good show.
Yeah. Turn off. All right. Just pick up right where you left off.
No, look, Lane was definitely, it was an experience playing for him. I know we talked about before the show that question that was probably planted at the beginning of the press conference in terms of who the coordinator was going to be. He's got a lot of friends in the media. I think he sets himself up pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, and I felt like he was just trying to cause a distraction within the Alabama athletic department. I mean, Nick Saban, obviously Nick Saban definitely is a guy who does things his own way. And he doesn't like distractions. He doesn't like nonsense. And yeah, right. And I mean, and I think this is part of it. And after everything that we've been through the last 3 weeks, I don't know if Lane Kiffin's really throwing a monkey wrench into what Alabama's doing, or if he's just pissing off the GOAT.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've got enough things to worry about. I mean, based on just, getting on the same page. If anything, you're kind of unifying that beast and poking the bear in Coach Saban. I know historically, when you see teams kind of poke the bear and talk trash, it usually does not end up very well for them. I think everybody remembers the get your popcorn ready game. I'd be quiet, but I sure am enjoying sitting back and watching it all happen.
Well, the thing about him to me is that he has, he does the popcorn game stuff, and then he looked like an idiot, but he just shows up the next day and no one even really talks about it. If he'd have beaten Alabama, I mean, we'd still be living on the highlights and everything else. It's almost like he does this stuff and he has like a different accountability than it would be if like Kirby Smart had said, get your popcorn, and then took a beat down to Alabama, like has happened a few times.
Oh yeah, it's like that kid that always gets kicked out of class or is suspended, and you call the parents and the parents are like, oh, again, whereas everybody's surprised when the good guy gets in trouble. I think Lane just, that leash is a lot more extended for him, and he can get away with it. And let me tell you, it's funny. It's fun to watch, and it definitely makes things more interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, it's from my standpoint, it's entertainment. I mean, like you get to talk about Alabama football every day, and this guy gives you a lot to talk about. Last year, leading into the Alabama game, Ole Miss was one of the best teams in the country. They lost to Alabama. Then his name kept coming up for the Auburn job, where one reporter even thought that he had taken the job or was going to take the job. And then obviously it didn't happen for whatever reason. They ended up with Hugh Freeze and not Lane. And then the team went on to lose the last 4 games of the regular season.
Yeah, it's not to the level of Dion, obviously, but I guess Hugh Freeze kind of got Ole Miss back on track where nobody really watched Ole Miss too much. But I don't think Ole Miss has ever been to this level where people are genuinely interested in seeing the outcomes of the games, no matter who they're playing.
Yeah.
He puts them on a different pedestal because of that, just the attention that he brings and obviously the success that he's had.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it is an entertainment business. I've spent my life around baseball, and it used to be the managers would get thrown out of the game, and part of the entertainment would be the way that they would argue with the umpires. And a lot of it was just kind of like a show that they would put on, right? And then nowadays you don't see that as much. I think partly because of the way that people are now. I think the umpires aren't as light on the guy that gets thrown out and makes them look bad, So in that sense, like I do enjoy all of the shenanigans that do surround Lane Kiffin. I'm just wondering like how this affects Alabama's football team. And you and I have talked about it. I mean, it's been a tough season so far for Alabama. The win over South Florida doesn't really feel like a win. They got beat by Texas. They lost by 10. It felt like they lost by 50. They didn't do a lot of things right. Alabama standard wise, there's a lot of people questioning Nick Saban. I heard, Paul Feinbaum basically saying that, that this is it. I mean, if he loses this game, then, people will be ready to push him out the door. And, here we are, and the guys, tweeting Taylor Swift videos at Nick Saban. Not at Nick Saban, but you know what I mean, like directed at Nick Saban.
That's right. I mean, to me, you can X's and O's people to death, but what separates the good teams and the great teams is the leadership, the cohesiveness. Alabama doesn't have that right now. I think everybody can agree on that. We're kind of waiting on that moment, and when you throw some wrenches in there and get on the attack versus a team who hasn't really put it together yet, that's an awfully strong catalyst to get them there. And that would be, again, I wouldn't want to be the team that plays them the week they figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I see this matchup, Jake, and I'm like, if I'm Alabama, I'm going to run behind that offensive line and I'm just going to pound Tennessee. They got pushed around by Tulane. They beat Georgia Tech, but it just didn't feel like they were really in control until the end of the game. Those are 2 teams. I mean, they're not bad teams. It's not like they're playing South Florida, but at the same time, when Alabama really beat them up, it was running behind the offensive line 2 years ago. And I feel like that would be the formula to do on Saturday.
Yeah. I want to see Alabama establish an identity. I don't know if you watched that Monday Night Football game on the Manning cast when Aaron Rodgers got hurt and Zach Wilson came in there and he was like, run the ball. I don't care if it's 3rd and 18, run the ball. I don't care what the numbers look like. I don't care if they've got a bunch of people in the box. Just run the ball. I honestly, I just want to see us manhandle a defense, control the ball, control the clock, and just show some physicality, show some want to run run Jalen Milroe. Don't be getting out of bounds, take people on. I mean, play to the Alabama standard of a few years ago.
Yeah, right. Be physical and also go in there and reestablish your dominance. Do you think that Tommy Rees is he capable of doing this? I mean, I've been, and I know it's only 3 games, but man, I've been so underwhelmed by the offense in general. And I felt like Bill O'Brien did a good job, but could have been more creative. I mean, this feels like, and maybe it's that they don't have a quarterback. I don't want to make excuses up for him. I just haven't been impressed.
You know, I think when you have guys like, I mean, Sark and Lane in there who are extremely creative and finding matchups, confusing defenses with motions and shifts and getting the ball, distributing the ball to different players out of different looks. I think you get kind of spoiled. You know, Tommy, I think he's 31. He's pretty new to this. I think he calls plays that schematically are good. I'd like to see a little bit more creativity. And again, when I say that, you know, the plays that Lane came up with and the way that we got there was a lot of movements and a lot of different options. I mean, when the defense was trying to defend us, they had a lot of people to account for.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see a little bit more diversity on offense, but you know, again, Tommy's been there for 3 games. I think he's a really good offensive coordinator. I think he's kind of feeling out and figuring out, you know, what are we good at? Because we still don't really know, or at least we don't know from watching the games what our strength is going to be.
Yeah, and that's definitely a problem. But the good thing is that Nick Saban, and we talked about this, he announced that Jalen Milroe was going to be the starting quarterback. That kind of sets up the offense, the rest of the team, to know that he's the guy leading. You went through the same process, and you know that's going to help out a lot. But also you can, as an offensive coordinator, start to set up the offense to benefit his strengths.
Yeah, I mean, you know, now we've got our quarterback figured out. Now we just got to figure out who our defensive coordinator is.
Just ask Lane, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
this is so interesting to me. I just feel like Alabama, why wouldn't you let a dead dog lie? You know, instead of prodding Alabama, they're having all these problems and troubles by running his mouth. I mean, I just feel like if I'm on that team and I'm in that locker room, I'm like, hey, you know what, man? We're not going to let our coach, the best coach ever, get talked about like this. Like, wouldn't you think that? And I don't know these guys, but if it was me, I would be one of the guys in the locker room going, hey, man, I don't care if we break our arms or our necks out there on Saturday. We're not letting these guys talk about our guy like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, they've been through, I mean, for Alabama, it's been a pretty embarrassing first 3 weeks of the season. And that's not a shot at them. It's just, you know, the standard at Alabama is to dominate physically and win games throughout. I mean, really, I guess, you know, since Coach Saban's been there hadn't been many games at all where you lost a game and felt like, man, that team may have been better than us. Usually it seemed like we were very physical up front. We made plays, but we turned the ball over too many times to win and made too many critical errors. That Texas game just felt a little bit different. And when you, again, put all that together with kind of the embarrassment of I've heard a lot of former players chime in.
Yeah.
You know, the media's beating on them. You finally got your quarterback named. You're hearing all this garbage. The head coach for the other team is giving you hell about, you know, who's the defensive coordinator. The dynasty's falling because of you, pretty much. I mean, you would think that you'd have some pride and you'd stand up and get after them physically.
Yeah. Plus, I think Alabama's got better players than Ole Miss at a lot of spots on Saturday. I mean, this isn't Georgia where you're talking about 4 and 5 stars versus 4 and 5 stars. This is, you know, Alabama 4 and 5 stars versus, you know, guys that that Lane Kiffin got off the transfer portal and, you know, some of the guys that he had. But talent wise, I would think Alabama's superior.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think again, the Alabama's going to get who they want for the most part, and I think Lane's going to get a lot of great players. But at Alabama's level right now with Coach Saban, I don't see Ole Miss. I mean, they may win a few here and there, guys that will pick Ole Miss over Alabama, but for the most part, you're getting guys out of the portal that didn't play at Alabama or, didn't get recruited very heavily by Alabama. And that's not to say that those guys aren't great players, but, for the most part, it's pretty obvious who the best players are and who aren't. I think, physically, talent-wise, we're a better team. We have got to figure it out mentally and get these guys on the same page. They got to get it together internally.
Well, I'm going to tell you another team that's had a worse season than anyone here, and that's me betting. I'm 1 for 8 so far. No, I'm sorry. I'm 1 for 9. I'm 1 and 8 this year. So I'm going to turn the Lance's lock. I'm going to turn the Lance's lock to try to salvage my season, right? My sharp out in Vegas told me it's hard to go 1 and 8, and I agree. It is hard to go 1 and 8. That's a lot of losing. And I bet 3 games a week. So think about this. That means that I got 2 overs and a 1 for.
Send me your picks this weekend so I can fade them all.
Oh, you want me to tell you what they are? Because I will.
Yeah, please do.
just to let you know. Okay. So Notre Dame and Ohio State. I'm so stuck on this, but I'm going to take Notre Dame at home. I just the fact that they're a home dog means that Ohio State's going to win. Bama and Ole Miss. I mean, Bama is part of the reason I've had such a bad start because I seem to take them every week, and I'm taking them again. Maybe I need to take Ole Miss. Oh man, that's my second one, and then Dion and Colorado are out in Oregon to take on Bo Nix. They're getting 21. I'm going with Dion. Yeah. I mean, come on, man. That's 3 touchdowns, Jake.
Yep, that just okay. I'm in on Oregon.
So the bet, and I have time to change these. So the bets should be Ole Miss, Ohio State, and Oregon. And that's a 3 for 3 week. Or you can get up with Lance's lock and they'll help you out. And and again, our show is brought to you by Lance's Lock and MyBookie. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Just don't use my picks. use Lance's picks.
My bookie is begging you to use mixed picks.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they don't want you to get up with Lance. This is the worst year I've ever had. I can't even believe it. But there's a shift in college football. I mean, there's no doubt about it with the transfer portal and NIL. I saw an interview with Deion Sanders where he's like, you know what? We're not going to take high school guys for the most part. Why wouldn't we just go in the transfer portal where we can see what a guy does? Jake, you're the one that started all this with your transfer. Everybody saw what everybody saw what happened, and now they want to do it. Do you agree with that?
I hate it for the high school kids. I think JUCOs are going to be really become a hot topic here pretty soon. I think a lot of high school kids are going to have to go that route, the 3-star guys, But can you blame them? I mean, you see what a guy does when he gets to college. I mean, is he mature enough to make it on a college campus and not get kicked out of school, make the grades, and then lastly play. So, I mean, I don't blame him at all for going that route. Honestly, I think most of the schools outside of maybe, the upper echelon schools are going to start doing that.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, Alabama would have to adapt because, they've dominated the high school recruiting game for a long time and they still are. But I think the point that Dion made is just it's easier to figure out who can play and who can't when you've already seen a body of work. By where they come from in college. And Lane Kiffin was one of those guys, come to the SIP or whatever it is that he's got on his shirt where he goes out and really tries to recruit transfer players to come to Ole Miss. And I mean, Ole Miss is solid. They're a solid football team. I mean, year in and year out, they're solid, like for a school that won national championships like in the 50s, right? And then they
Oh,
really
yeah.
weren't much. They've only beaten Alabama like 10 times. It's like 71 games, and they've won 12. There's been like a couple ties, but Alabama's dominated this. And the other thing, Jake, is that honestly, like, I don't really know many Bama people that look at this as a rivalry game, but Ole Miss, this is one of their big rivals.
Oh, this is the first time that I can ever remember where Ole Miss came in, with their chest poked out, acting like, Alabama really wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, when we lost to them when I was at Alabama, they were cutting, the goalpost down and carrying it out of the stadium. I mean, it was like they just won the Super Bowl, And this will be the first time that I ever in my lifetime where, well, I say that when Eli was there, I felt like they thought Ole Miss would probably beat Alabama, but outside of that,
it was a struggle, but they won.
Oh yeah. But again, I've just never seen Ole Miss this confident going into an Alabama game. I mean, and again, over the last 3 or 4 years, obviously we had the get your popcorn ready game. I don't know if I've seen Lane. Obviously, he's poked fun at Coach Saban before, but not this nonchalantly and just out in the open before the week of the game.
Yeah, this one feels so. It just feels different. Like I just don't know what to think other than they're probably looking at Alabama on film right now and going, man, these guys can't do anything right. And I wouldn't necessarily argue with that, but at the same time, like when I don't want to compare them to the 2015 team. I don't want to compare them to your team because I don't really feel like it's the same situation. Other than they lost a game early in the season, because I didn't feel like you guys were really that far off. I feel like this team's really far off, but all that can change in a second.
Yeah. I mean, well, again, when we lost to Ole Miss third game of my year, we, came back and beat Western Kentucky, or no, Louisiana Monroe pretty good. You knew we were going to be able to run the ball. I mean, we had that strength. I mean, it didn't matter who was playing quarterback. We were going to be able to run the ball. We had a defense full of leadership. And again, you're not seeing that. I guess the good thing about last week is, you mentioned them watching film, not a whole lot to take away from that South Florida game. There's just not a whole lot to look at. And I still kind of think everybody's scratching their heads wondering what the plan is going to be this week. Again, I don't know Jalen Milroe's strengths. I mean, obviously he can run the ball, and he made some hellacious deep throws against Texas. It's just those 1 or 2 mistakes, and we're right there in the game.
All right. Well, I want your comments, your predictions as we close this episode up. You and I will be back together on Monday, and we will definitely make up for the away. This is like the away cast that we'll do. We'll make up for it on Monday, but like, final thoughts. I'm going to tell you that I just feel like that Lane Kiffin and all of the taunting and trolling and all of that stuff, I think it's a blessing. I think this is the kind of thing that Nick Saban needs. It's almost the opposite of rat poison, which was always don't read how great you are. But this is like Ole Miss may be eating the rat poison. They're thinking they're pretty good. And they're kind of underestimating Alabama. And so maybe this is what Alabama needs to get into this game and win it. I think Alabama's going to have to establish the run. But I also think it comes down to turnovers. If Alabama doesn't turn the football over, they're going to win this football game. No doubt about it.
I mean, again, I think we have to establish the run. Absolutely have to. And with Ole Miss's offense, if we turn the ball over, it's kind of a death nail. Jackson Dart, I know, it's not like he was all world last year, but man, this year he looks so good throwing the ball, so comfortable back there. Going to have to get some stops and cannot turn the ball over. Keep the ball out of his hands as much as possible.
Get some pressure on him too.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah, and again, I bring this back to last time we were in this situation in 2015. We played Georgia. That was the first big game we played after we lost Ole Miss. And I remember warming up on the other end of the field, and our defense comes out, And then the Georgia players got all up in their face, and and then it was just almost a big brawl right there. And I was like, "Oh yeah, we got this one." Just pissed off all those big dudes up front.
Man, that was a great game. I was there.
Yeah. Hopefully we have some savages over there on the defensive side that eat all this up.
Yeah, I hope so too. We'll have to talk about the experience at the Georgia game last time. I did my post-game show from Mike Johnson's RV after walking out of that game in the pouring rain. Man, that place was a mess, and nothing sadder than when you see an underdog Alabama team come into Athens and just put a boot right up the dog's ass, right? So
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry to say it. Let's hope that happens on Saturday. All right, Jake, I guess that's it for our show today, but we're going to get back together Monday. We'll talk about the Ole Miss game and start looking at Mississippi State. And don't forget, Elephant in the Room here on Roll Tide Pods, part of Disrupt the Media, is brought to you by MyBookie. Aaron Rodgers, his season's officially over, but yours isn't. It's just begun at MyBookie. And you need to look at Lance's Lock. Don't be 1-8 like me. Lance has got you hooked up. Lance's Lock, lanceslock.com. But he kills it with the NFL. He's great at the college football. I did a show on here last year with Lance where we both picked games. Man, it's just amazing how good he is at knowing the teams and the matchups and all of that stuff. He's really awesome, the best in the business. All right, Jake, awesome seeing you too, man. And we'll see what fingers crossed for Saturday, man. Roll Tide.
Yep. Hopefully we're having a few celebratory beers afterwards.
That's what I'm all about. All right, guys, don't forget to subscribe. Elephant in the Room.